All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. We got week number 9 in the NFL, starting things off with Thursday Night Football. Dolphins taking on the Ravens. In this video, I'm going to dive into this game. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about either plays like player props that we like within the game as well as we break it down. But as always, guys, make sure to keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That's where you'll find all of my final plays so that I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest, if you want to ride with me, or if you do want to fade me, that is all absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4 more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. Now, in terms of how we did in week number 8, a slightly profitable week, right? A nice Sunday, a nice Monday Night Football. Thursday, we go 2-3, so hopefully this Thursday we can do a little bit better than that. But yeah, I feel like we're seeing the board pretty well. Was this a monster week? No, but if we're in the green, we're in the green. You know what I'm saying? I'll take that any day of the week. Now, guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also, hype this video, a new feature on YouTube. Hit that hype button as well, and make sure to drop all of your favorite plays down in the comments. I thoroughly enjoy going through and reading these and reacting to them and conversing with you down in the comments. But it's not just for me. You are helping out a bunch of other people that are looking for some additional plays and additional insights and angles in this game. So go ahead and drop your favorite plays down in the comments. But let's jump into this one, all right? We got the Dolphins taking on the Ravens. Right now, Dolphins 7.5-point dogs at home. That total all the way up at 51. Now, this Miami team coming off of a pretty impressive win over Atlanta last week, right? They beat them 34-10. That was their first win in a while with only 2 wins on the season. That makes sense. Baltimore also coming off of a nice win over Chicago. Now, both these teams are 2-win teams, Baltimore being 2-5, Miami being 2-6. I do think that there are some injuries, or I guess you could say lack thereof, that is important to note here, right? Lamar Jackson should be back in this one. Also last week, Roquan Smith, Hamilton's healthy again. The only injury I do think is really important to keep an eye on would be Ronnie Stanley, left tackle of the Ravens. He is listed as questionable. On the Miami side of things, they're getting fairly healthy as well, obviously, if you exclude Tyreek Hill and such. But Bradley Chubb, Ashton Davis on the defensive side, questionable in this one. Assuming they play, those are obviously decent enough pieces for them as well. So let's dive into this one, all right? Let's go through Miami's offense against Baltimore's defense. Right now, Baltimore, and obviously things may change with Lamar, but I don't envision the defense changing all that much. Maybe the defense is a little bit better with guys like Smith and Hamilton back, but still, the quarterback coming back, I don't think that they go, hey, let's play some different defense. No, I assume that they are going to play man-to-man defense like they have been, right? At a top 10 clip here in the NFL. By the way, guys, this is the NFL dashboard that we have live on GuyBostonSports.com. If you want access to it, GuyBostonSports.com. Head over to the members area, sign up for the NFL dashboard. You got a couple days left of the free NBA dashboard through the month of October, so check that out as well. A lot of cool stats here. You'll see me use it throughout the video. But you can see here, Baltimore likes to play man defense, right? Well, Tua Tagovailoa, yards per attempt goes up to 6.8 against man. His completion percentage goes up against man. Interception rate drops against man. DVOA goes up handily against man. Same thing with EPA. So from a coverage standpoint, this may not be the worst situation for Tua. And think about the 2 wins that Miami does have on the season, right? Falcons, a heavy man team. The Jets plays a lot of man. So, yeah, I do think that that's worth noting that this Baltimore team, if they roll out their man-to-man defense, Tua actually may be, and it's crazy to say out loud, in a more comfortable situation than most of the games that he's played in so far this year. Now, I still do worry about Tua as a quarterback overall, I'll be completely honest. The fact that they're even, like last week, they were waiting till a couple days before the game to announce him as a starter. You're paying him as all that much money. He's been your franchise guy, a couple years ago when they were scoring a bunch of points, and now you're at a point where no injury, no nothing. You're just announcing him as the starter. It wasn't that much in question. That does concern me a little bit. So Tua concerns me. I don't know about Tua versus the defense ultimately. The issue may arise when it comes to the blitz, though. We could see it here on the dashboard again. Baltimore, do they get the pressure home? Not necessarily, but blitzing 8th in the league in terms of frequency, and yeah, Tua's numbers don't look all that phenomenal against the blitz. Yards per attempt, completion percentage, interception rate, DVOA, and EPA all drop. Now, like I mentioned, this isn't necessarily a defense that gets the blitz home or anything like that from a Baltimore perspective. They're just 28th in pressure rate, 29th in adjusted sack percentage, 28th in clean pocket percentage, and 28th in quarterback hit rate. So I do think that, as long as this offensive line holds up to some degree, Tua may be okay even if they do blitz him, right? Now, if we flip it over to the ground game, Achan's actually looked pretty good, and this ground game has looked pretty good the last few weeks, especially considering the defenses that they've played, right? 128 on the ground from Achan against the Chargers, 82 against Cleveland. I think that's really impressive knowing how good Cleveland's run defense is. And then 67 last week against Atlanta. That has allowed them to actually kind of turn this season around when it comes to the run metrics. Right now, you can see this team is actually ranked 11th in yards per carry and, still 23rd in yards per game, which obviously is a low number. But that 11th in yards per carry means the quality is actually there. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that Achan may have gotten the wheels rolling, and maybe, just maybe, this run game can do a little something, right? Or wrong. Let's see, because how does this Miami team run the ball? They like to run the inside zone, and they like to run the outside zone. So we're sitting here being like, this Baltimore defense overall, which I failed to mention, by the way, not a very good run defense, right? 21st in yards per carry, 23rd in yards per game. But against the inside zone and against the outside zone, things do change up a little bit. Against those specific run schemes, 10th fewest yards per carry against the inside zone, 7th fewest yards per carry against the outside zone, 14th fewest EPA per attempt, 12th fewest EPA per attempt, 9th best DVOA, 7th best DVOA. I will say, against the inside zone, there is a pretty lack thereof of defense defending the explosive run rate, which may be a good situation for Achan being an explosive runner. Same thing with success rate, but then both those numbers look pretty good against the outside zone. So schematically, though this has been a really bad Baltimore run defense, I can't necessarily sit here and say that Miami's running back Achan is in the best of situations, especially with Smith and Hamilton. Like some of these guys that have now come back, I do think it alters it a little bit. So I do think that Miami may struggle on the ground, maybe has a few big plays, but I think the ball is in Tua's hands here. And I do like the idea of Tua in this spot. We'll do some player props for Miami, and then we'll get into Baltimore, a little bit different this week. So in terms of some player props on the Miami side of things, I do like the idea of Tua. Now, his passing yards per game, not all that great, only just like 189.75. His line for this one's at 209.5. But again, I do think he's in a decent enough situation in terms of against that man defense and the idea of that blitz not necessarily getting home to him, right? So I don't mind the idea of Tua going over this line. Yes, he's only done it in 2 of his 8 games so far. So if you're liking the idea of taking his unders, I can't knock you for it, but I do truly think that this is a decent enough spot for Tua. I also don't mind his completions. It's at 21.5, and also his passing touchdowns at 1.5. Now the passing touchdowns, it's really interesting. You can get that for plus money right now at plus 117. And the interesting thing that I'm calling out is he's actually done this in 5 of the 8 games so far to start the season. He had 4 last week against Atlanta, 2 in that game against the Jets. Again, those are 2 pretty heavy man defense teams, and those are only 2 wins. And this is a Baltimore team that is ranked 27th in terms of passing TDs against from a quarterback perspective. And if we do jump into the dashboard, we scroll down a little bit, you can see here from a red zone perspective, right? Miami, 11th best in terms of converting that red zone trip into a touchdown. Well, yeah, not exactly the best look for Baltimore, right? 26th. And if Tua is going to pass the ball for yards and completions, we're probably looking for a defense that's soft in the turnover rate category. Look no further than Baltimore. So I do think that Tua could be a decent enough look here in terms of taking his overs. Now, if he's going to hit his overs, there's got to be something correlated, right? There's got to be someone that will catch the ball, and I do believe it's Jalen Waddle. From a perspective of how I see this game going schematically, Baltimore running a lot of man, Baltimore blitzing a lot, but not necessarily getting home, right? Tua loves to target Jalen Waddle. Against man defense, his target percentage, I believe, goes up to, we have it right here, his target percentage goes up to 26.2%. Against the blitz, it goes up over 24%. So very, very high sort of numbers in terms of target share, right? And it's a big jump from just everyday football to when they're in man and when they're facing blitz. So I like the idea of Jalen Waddle here. Baltimore's also allowing the 8th most receptions to the out wide receiver. Jalen Waddle plays like 78% of his snaps from the wide receiver position out wide. So I do like the spot here, especially now that Tyreek Hill is sidelined. They also have the 12th highest catch rate to the out wide receiver. A Devon Achane spot that I'd consider. Obviously being one of the feature backs, we talked about how he's kind of got it rolling. I don't necessarily love him on his yards, either receiving yards or his rushing yards. I don't mind the longest. We talked about somewhat of a lack in the Baltimore defense of explosive run rate and stuff like that. Devon Achane is a very, very explosive player, and we know that, right? So I don't mind the idea of his longest reception over 13.5 yards or his longest rush over 15.5 yards. I think you can also get it for 14.5 in some places. So keep an eye on the final plays, guys. That is what we're looking at from the Miami side of the ball. Now let's jump into the Baltimore offense. Before we do, I want to talk to you guys about Epic Fantasy. If you have not tried it out yet, what are you waiting for? Go check it out. That link will be down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Now, with these DFS apps, we're always looking for what distinguishes one from the other. Epic has a bunch of distinguishing factors, all right? First and foremost, their payouts and multipliers are a lot better than a lot of the other competition out there, right? They also have softer lines, meaning normal users like me and you may actually have a better chance of hitting over there. And guess what? They now have the web version that I've talked to you guys about for a couple weeks now. This is absolutely awesome. It is clean, easy to use. If you want to search a player, like we have Tua searched here, right? You can head in, say we wanted to look at Achane. You can search for Achane, get all of his numbers. Really, really cool stuff, guys. I love these companies that roll out a web version because I'm on the computer like 90% of the time. I'm not doing the research and all that on the phone. In fact, if you take this stuff seriously, I would recommend doing it more on the computer, right? So they fit right into that. Now, the coolest part is the Fatum section here within Epic Fantasy. You have the ability to be the house. Finally, we can be the house, right? All we have to do is go through and be like, all right, I don't think that guy's knows ball. For example, Onaje P28. I don't think he knows ball, or maybe I do. Who knows, right? We can come in here and say he has 6 NBA player props for tonight. I think he's going to get at least one of them wrong. Just one cashes this entry. So, yes, I do really like the idea that they have the Fatum section as well. Say James L. If I don't like his plays, okay, maybe I do think that Zion's going to have less than 35.5 PRA. All I need is one of these squares to cash, and I end up cashing. So go check out Epic Fantasy, guys. That link will be down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Let's talk about these Ravens, shall we? So Lamar Jackson comes back. That's obviously going to be a huge boost for this Ravens squad. No kidding. But how is he going to match up against this Miami team? Now, we'll look at the NFL dashboard here, but I do encourage you guys to be cautious and conservative here because we don't have that much data from this season against for Lamar, right? He hasn't really been all that great against man, which we should see from Miami. He's also struggled against blitz, which we should see from Miami. But that being said, it is, the nth degree or the opposite of for a sample size that we have from Lamar. So I don't want to put too much weight into that. What I can put weight into is perhaps their emphasis on running the ball. This is a Baltimore team that is first in rushing yards per carry after last week, and Miami ranked 28th both in rushing yards per game as well as rushing yards per carry. So I do think Derrick Henry may get a decent workload here. The issue is those front-facing numbers tell one story, but if we actually look into the schematics of their run game, it may tell a little bit different of a story. So this Baltimore team runs a ton of outside zone, almost exclusively, especially when handing the ball off to Derrick Henry. Guess what? Miami just faced a team. So Baltimore's second in terms of, frequency from an outside zone perspective. The number one team in the league running more outside zone than them, and that's it, the Atlanta Falcons. This Miami team just gobbled up Atlanta last week, right? So that's a little worrisome for me. And looking more into it, 14th in yards per carry is where Miami ranks against the outside zone. You're thinking, okay, middle of the pack, they can still run on it. You look a little bit further, get a little bit more advanced, 6th best EPA per attempt, 3rd best DVOA, best defensive success rate against the outside zone in the entire league through 8 weeks. Derrick Henry may not be in the best of situations. Now, let's be real. Lamar Jackson being on the field helps out Derrick Henry, right? It keeps the defense on their toes or their heels, however you want to look at it. It may open up some running lanes that can be beneficial, right? We haven't really seen much of the duo so far this season. So I don't want to sit here and knock Derrick Henry, but I don't want to sit here and tell you that it's exactly the best situation for him. You look at Miami's run defense, 28th and 28th in terms of yards per game and yards per carry. You're thinking Derrick Henry's going to run all over them, but I don't really think that that's going to be the case. I think that in the outside zone, Miami may actually give him some trouble. Now, is he going to have a bad game? Again, probably not, because Lamar Jackson opens things up for him a little bit. I do have a Derrick Henry player prop that I like, and it's a weird one. And I don't know, maybe you guys will think it's gross, because it's probably not what you're thinking, unless you watched H to H, the show that I do with Tassos each and every week, comes out on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Derrick Henry over 3.5 receiving yards. Sound the psycho alert alarm. I know, it's gross, it's weird. He has hit this in 5 of his last 10 games, 4 of 7 this season. This Miami team allows the 5th most receptions per game to the running back position. Do I think Derrick Henry is, even the best pass catching back on that team or anything? No. But with a Lamar Jackson coming back, I think they might look for some additional drop-offs, dump-offs, check-down type plays. And Derrick Henry may be the benefactor of that. And he only needs 1 or 2 catches. He's minus 250 right now for over 0.5 catches. So if we know Derrick Henry is going to get 1 catch, you're telling me he can't take it for 4 yards? Yards per reception, 9. And in terms of where he goes after the catch, that's what I think is pretty remarkable. Yards after the catch, he's averaging 7 yards after the catch. So all we need is 1, and he can potentially fall forward for a few yards. We only need 4 yards out of him. I sounded the psycho alert alarm. I get it. It's crazy. He may not even get a target this game. But for minus 118 odds, and he needs 4 yards, it is a spot that I am considering pretty damn strongly. Like, there's a really good chance that becomes a final play. Now let's talk about the game itself, because I haven't given you my spread lean. I haven't given you my total lean either. Is it crazy to look at Miami in this spot? Out of everything we've talked about, I will admit the spread, whether you're on Miami or Baltimore, is probably my least favorite thing out of any play that we can conceptualize here. Just because there is the question mark of Lamar Jackson coming back. There is the question mark of, okay, now their defense is getting healthy. This Baltimore team, we can't forget how good they were, right? Is it going to shock me if they win the game by 50,000 points? No, because I still think Miami stinks. But is Miami trending in the right direction? Is the fact that Tua is going to see man good enough to keep him in this game? 7.5 points is a very key number. I'm going to lean towards Miami here plus the 7.5. I don't know if I have the cojones to roll with that as a final play, just because, like I mentioned, it's probably my least confident look out of this, just because we have a new look Ravens team coming in. From a total perspective, I do like the under. Say what you want about the Ravens and their lack of defense. They're getting healthy, and we saw them look pretty good last week. Now, it was against Chicago. I get it. But, the week before that, they played against, or 2 weeks because they came off a bye. They played against the Rams. They did lose, but they only allowed 17 points to that offense. Like, this is a better Ravens defense, I'm confident in saying that, than we've seen for the majority of the season. And we already kind of made a case for why Miami may be able to give Lamar some trouble with the man and the blitz, as well as that outside zone running scheme from the Baltimore side. So 51 is a very, very high number. I don't mind the idea of taking a peek at an under there. So yeah, in terms of what we're leaning towards in this game, guys, I like Tua's overs. I like Waddle's overs. Devon Achane, I would consider his longest plays, receptions and rushes. Derrick Henry over in receiving yards. I hate to say it, but I like Miami plus the 7.5 and the total going under. As always, let me know all of your favorite plays down in the comments. We'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.